Hello everybody and welcome to this new Privacy Rules mini-series. Today we are going to discuss about the Indonesian legislation with our expert from Indonesia, that is Yudha Triarianto from SIP law firm. Yudha is an expert in communication and media and is now expert also in data privacy for this firm. The regulation in Indonesia is really interesting. They just have a new bill proposal, and the previous series of regulations was handling data protection by using different laws connected one to each other. So we are going to discuss this very complex patchwork with Yudha today. And in the next episode of this mini-series, we are going also to see what are the main practical issues in his activity as a data privacy specialist in Indonesia, but also which are the differences with the GDPR that is directly mentioned in the regulation of Indonesia. And finally, we are going to see the most relevant points related to the possibility to do business in Indonesia and why to do business in Indonesia and why to be part of Privacy Rules. So first of all, hello Yudha, it's a pleasure to be with you today.
Hi Alejandro, hello everyone. It is a great pleasure for me to be here speaking for all members of Privacy Rules. It is also a great honor for us as IP law firm to join as exclusive member of Privacy Rules from Indonesia jurisdiction. And today I hope I can share useful information for all members and all listeners of this podcast. And I also hope that we can meet in person in the upcoming event, so we will have a meaningful discussion regarding privacy and data protection.
Yes, Yudha, exactly. Privacy Rules is going to have a series of very interesting events in 2020. In particular, we will start with Helsinki in May 2020, where we are going to discuss in particular with and about startups and new hubs and new ways to use technologies and privacy and to combine them together. And then we will be in Beijing, China in June 2020, and finally in Tokyo in October 2020. So 3 very interesting events. And we really hope to meet you there and to meet as many of our members as possible and to have a very, big audience participating in order to discuss with them about privacy and to receive as many questions as they would like to propose to our expert. So Yudha, speaking about you and CIP law firm, what do you do? What's your expertise and what's your activities there?
Yeah, SIP law firm is one of leading law firms in Indonesia, and we are full service law firm. We specialize in several practice areas, that is debt restructuring and insolvency, dispute resolution, IPR, labor law, banking, insurance, medical hospitals, and also data protection. Yeah. And we have assist various clients, both local and international, not only private companies, but also government institution and state-owned enterprise. And we have been operating here in Indonesia for more than 10 years now. We have our own office building as headquarters in Jakarta and 2 branch office in Surabaya and Yogyakarta. And we have been focusing on data protection matters since the European Union issued the GDPR. So because we recognize that this trend is growing rapidly around the world, including in Indonesia.
Okay, Yudha, perfect. And what about yourself?
I myself experience in handling civil case and commercial cases, including full range service in debt and corporate restructuring. I also deal with corporate matters for some practice business, that is real property and insurance and hospitals. And a few years ago, I had dedicated myself into government program. So I used to work with some ministries, government institution, and international organization in order to improve financial inclusion. I was also involved in consumer protection working group, which focus on consumer protection in financial sector, including in terms of data protection. So since then, regarding personal data protection, my work has focused on assisting our clients to meet the requirements of personal data protection regarding our applicable law in Indonesia.
Okay, Yudha, perfect. That's a very interesting introduction about you and your firm, but let's go deep in the topic of the day, that is the personal data protection regime in Indonesia. What can you tell us about it, how it works there?
Yeah, the Indonesian government has completed the Personal Data Protection Bill on December 2019. And the bill is expected to soon be approved by the House of Representatives. We hope that the bill could be applicable in 2020. But currently, there are several regulations that governs about personal data protection. Yeah? And the latest one is Government Regulation number 80/2019 regarding e-commerce. Even the title is about e-commerce, but if we look at the inside, this regulation is quite comprehensive, yeah? And it has extensive scope of regulation. Yeah? We can find that the personal data protection we can find in Chapter 11, and the GR80 requires certain data protection standards, such as legal grounds for data collection, the purpose limitation on data process, the accuracy of the data, meaning the data must be kept up to date, and the storage of the data must be appropriate, and also the safety level of data protection. And also the GR80 quite tight, yeah, tight on personal data protection. The GR80 prohibits offshore personal data transfer unless the recipient country or territory has been certified by our Minister of Trade as having at least the same level of personal data protection standards as Indonesia. But if we look at the elucidation on Article 59, Paragraph 2, the GR80, it states that such standards of personal data protection should regard to European data protection standards and or the Asia-Pacific Economic Privacy Framework. So we know that the European standard is based on the GDPR. So indirectly, the GR80 states that we look at the standard from European Union. And also, if we talk about the sanction, violation of this provision would lead to administrative sanction, yeah, range from written warnings and temporary suspension to revocation of business license, and also the publication of sanction. Yeah, it based on Regulation number 80 of 2016 by Minister of Communication and Informatics. Which from if we look at the publication of the sanction, also it is not good for business. Yeah, from the reputational perspective, is something clearly to be avoided. And meanwhile, if we look at the PDP bill on 2019, the bill also regulates the criminal sanction for violation of personal data in Chapter 14. The penalties in the form of fines, yeah, and the fines is up to 100 billion rupiah. Yeah, it is quite very big amount, yeah, for fine.
And perfect, Yudha. Thank you very much. I can already see lots of similarities with the European regulation in what you just mentioned, and I really think it's going to be interesting to hear our next meeting, our next part of the mini-series, in which we are going to compare the GDPR with the Indonesian regulation. So thank you very much for being with us today, and let's see and meet again in our next video. And I also invite all our listeners to follow us in order not to miss our next step in this very interesting discussion. Bye everyone.